Hey kids, welcome to Unit 7, Lesson 7, Libraries Practice. By this point, kids, you should have had a little conversation with me about what libraries are. The TLDL, the too long didn't listen to you, Mr. Rhodes, is libraries are just functions that are stored. That's all they really are, kids. Think of a library in your school, if you still got one. If you think there's all kind of different books on things you could learn. As an example, if you wanted to learn how to paint, you could go check out book out how to paint. And in that book, it'll tell you steps how to paint. If you want to go learn how to work on a car, there's books probably how to go work on a car. You just go check that book out. Same idea here with this library. You're just creating functions you can use later. We had a long talk about how you had to make sure about your variables. You usually want them local. You never want to call to something that's outside since it won't work because you don't know if that variable is created. And we also talked that usually you want to return or do something with it. Really, kids, that's all it is. It's not really anything too crazy. Don't overthink it. Just remember, it's stored functions, stuff you already know. So take a deep breath. Let's go through this practice here. We have to do this. So this program uses a state's library from the previous lesson. You'll need to finish the app by writing code inside the new state function by using the functions in a state's library. You'll need to pick a random state, set the value of a current state to the state name, update the flag on the screen to that state. And kids, really, these first two are the same thing. Remember, with variables, we can store it or we could print it. In this case, we have to pick a random state and then we have to set that name to it. So we're doing two things there. This last one here, I think, is just a set image URL, which again, we're always missing, kids. And we're going to make use of our libraries here. Well, let's go ahead and start building this. Like I said, the first thing we're going to need is a variable because remember, we have to pick a random state here. Then we have to set that value of the current state to that state name. So I'm going to have to store it and then set it there. And that means variables. And I'm going to call my variable, we'll just call it current state like they want above. And what's that going to be equal to? Well, we just want a random state, right, kids? So if we go down to functions, and we'll see there is a state's library, random state. We can just drag that in right there. Kids, sometimes this doesn't drag in as easy. Just remember, you can always go to text mode and just type it in or copy it over. So just remember that, kids. It's a common thing I see sometimes. After that, well, we have our current state, which is our variable up here. That's why we didn't use var here. Set to our random state. And that really takes care of that one. We picked a random state and then we set the value to the current state. We have our variable up here, current state. And remember, we don't use variable or var down here because it's already declared up there. So that takes care of the first two. Next, we just have to update the flag on the screen to that state. And again, kids, I think we're going to have to create a variable here to store this. So we're going to go over here. And this time we are going to need our friend var in the front because we're declaring a new variable. This is a local variable since it is inside our function here. And this is going to be set to what? Well, if we go over to our math functions here, you'll see we have a state's flag one. And this is just the state name with the state flag. So we can drag this in here. And the neat part is, kids, we can pass our parameter down and we can just call to that current state. So we're just going to go current state. Well, now we know what the flag image should be. Now we just have to set it. So we have to set an image URL. And again, kids, as you go over to the text mode to do this, I'm going to do a set image URL. And in this one, the first thing we have to do is we have to tell it where it needs to go. And that is flag image there. We're going to do a parenthesis. And look, it already pops up. We're going to do flag image. And then what do we want that flag image to be? Well, the second part always here is going to be our variable. We can point to what it's going to be, our value or our property. And in this case, we want it to be literal, so we don't want it to be in quotes. And we're just going to write flag image URL. We need a semicolon after that, and that should be it. We can go over to our blocks mode, and you can see right there, again, it's just our file image. Then if we go here, this is just pointing towards our variable that we made, and the variable is just the state flag, whatever the current state is. And if you look right here, this just tells you everything that's happening here. And if you look at the flag part here, you can see it's getting all these flag names and pictures. So that's what it's pulling from. It's pretty much the same thing as a random state flag and then set it equal to the current state. I think that's all for this code that takes care of all three that we needed to do. Let's go ahead and hit run. I know this one, kids. This is a state flag right here. This is the state flag, I believe, of Alaska. Let's guess. Hey, let's try a new one. This one is Texas, I believe. I always see it in Texas. Kids, we should do a set property here that blanks this out. But Texas is a guess here. And we're correct. How about one more, kids? Oh, it's a new one. How about a new random one? Ooh, this one. I believe this, kids. This is where I actually went on my honeymoon for kids, Tennessee. Look at that, kids. How about we get one wrong here? That's South Dakota. What happens if we write, North Dakota? And we guess, nope, that's not it. So our code looks like it's working here. Everything looks like it's working right. I think that's all code.org wanted for this lesson. Let's move on, kids. We have a do this. This simple program should show a random cat and the name of the breed every time the user clicks a button. A library called cats has been added to the program to help. Read the documentation for the function in the cats library. Use the provided functions to finish building the app. The user should see a new random cat and the name of the breed every time they click the button. Well, let's go over here to functions and let's see some of this code here. Looks like we are pulling in a bunch of cat names and breeds. Looks like this string right here is returning the random cat. So it's just pulling in all the cats and their names and then picking one in between a 0 and the length of the list. This function looks like it is returning the image here. So it is getting an image of the cat. It's again pulling from outside data. It's also pulling the breed. And it looks like if the breed at whatever index we're at equals a search breed, then we're going to return that image. So that's how it's searching through that one. And then we are returning the list of all the cats. Basically, this is a column just getting every cat in their name. And then random image is just getting all of the random breeds. And if you look, this random breed here is getting passed off from here. So these are all connected. This random image is coming up here and being passed there, kids. So take a look at the documentation. I think I understand this pretty good. Let's go ahead and build our app here. Well, the first thing I need to do, just like before, is I need to figure out that random breed. So I need a variable and I need to declare a new variable because it's inside my function. And I'm going to call this one breed. And if I remember, one of my functions over here was a random breed. So if we go cats random breed like that, well, that should figure out a breed. And then all I have to really do is just set the properties of both this image here and this little text part that tells the breed name down there. And remember, kids, they're getting set equal to each other. So when I pull an image, it is setting it to the corresponding breed. So all I got to do is set it. And remember, I had that function that was setting the image to the breed. That means all I have to do is set cat image and breed name to the property, and we should be able to pull up the images and the corresponding breeds every time we hit the show me another button there. That means we need to go over here to set property. And what property are we going to do? Well, we want to do the image part right here. So we're going to go to cat image. What do we want? Well, in there, we want a image. And what do we want inside that image? Well, we want the picture, right, kids? And remember, there is a breed image one right here that I can drag in right here. And inside of it, I have my random breed. And remember, they're setting equal to each other. So if I put breed in here, it should pull up the corresponding image to that picture. It should bring up the corresponding text to this picture. Well, that sets the image. We still have to set the text down here, breed name. Come in here, drag this. This is going to be the breed name. And this is going to be text, kids. And the text we want is, again, the breed. And this isn't something you can select, so you're going to have to erase this, and you just want the breed to be referenced right there. Now, when I hit run and show me another image, it should pick a random breed of a cat. And again, because of that function looking for the corresponding indexes, it'll know that it's the correct breed as well. Well, let's see if I'm right, kids. We have an American bobtail, looks like a cat to me. We have an Abyssinian, looks like a cat to me. Aegean, oh kids, I'm going to butcher this. You should definitely leave a comment. Oh yeah. Savannah, that just looks like a name, kids. I think these are just names of cats, like people just decided, oh, there's my cat, Scottish Fold. Asa-cat. And you can see we have random images. And it looks like, kids, honestly, I'll be 100% honest with you here. I have no idea if that's the correct name or not. I'm just going to guess that it is. But again, what did our code do here? We created a new variable breed that just picked a random breed here. And then we set the image here to a cat image of a random cat breed image. But we specifically wanted the one that we already picked up here for the breed. And then we set the property down here to the text of that breed. Pretty neat, kids. I think that's all three things code.org wanted. Let's move on. We have a do this before exporting a library. It's a good idea to test functions with different input values to make sure they export correctly. Debug the issues with these programs using the test written for each to check what's wrong with them. All right, let's take a look at our code here, kids. This one decides if a number is even, and what we're doing is we're modding it by 2. If it is divisible by 2, we shouldn't end up with a remainder. So 0 equals 0, it means it's even. Down here, we're seeing if 10 is even. And we're just passing 10 here to the number. So our parameter here is number, and that's just being passed. Well, that's the number being passed there. This function's called isOdd. Again, we're passing the number. We're still modding 2, but now we're checking to see if it equals 1. So if there is a remainder of 1 or -1, because it could go the other way, kids, then we are going to determine it's odd. And then we're just going to go down here and put these numbers in. And again, we're using a negative number, so we have to check for a negative. That's why the or is there. Then we have an is between. We have 3 parameters, the number low and high. And if the number is greater than low or the number is less than high, we are going to tell if it's this number right here. And kids, I can already tell you something's not right here. Any number greater than low or less than high is every number. I think that should be an and instead of an or, but we're going to run it just to make sure here, kids. What do I think is going to happen? It's going to say, is a 10 even? We're going to get a true. Is 5? We're going to get a false. -2, we should get a true. Over here, is it odd? 10, it's going to say false. We should get true and true for the negatives. Over here, we're probably going to get an error or a true because, again, no matter what you put in here, it's always going to be satisfied because every number is going to be satisfied. And what's supposed to be passing is the number 10. And then on the low side is 0. On the high side is 5. And again, that number is greater than low and lower than high. So it would be true because we're using an or there. But let's go ahead and see if I'm right, kids. Is a 10 even? That's true. 5 even? That's false. And -2, that's true. 10 odd is 10 odd. That's false. 5 odd. Oh, that's true. -5. That's true. 10 is between 0 and 5. Again, kids, it's always going to say true because it just has to satisfy one of these requirements, and it's always going to satisfy one of those, so it's always going to be true. How do we fix that? Let's jump over to text mode for this one. This will be the easiest. This right here is the or sign. We're just going to change that to the and sign. You can find this under math right here. This is just our and Boolean operator. Well, that's our or Boolean operator. Let's reset run. Now, if we look at it down here, 10 is between 0 and 5. Well, that's not true. 10 is between 5 and 10. That's false. It's not between it. It is on the outside range of it, and we didn't use an equal to. 10 is between 15 and 20. It is not. Let's just check and make sure that this works. Let's put a number in between it. Let's put 17. Reset run. Now we get a true. And really, we had to also change this number here, kids, because we're printing off 10. That should have been 17. Now is 17 between 15 and 20. That's true. So the code is all working as it's intended, kids. I think that's all code.org wanted from us. Let's move on. We have to do this. This program is prepared to export as a library. When testing the final function, getLetters, a number of issues came up. Debug the getLetters function so that it correctly returns the right list each time. All right. Let's go through our code here first. We have all lower. Looks like it's a list of all the lowercase letters. Uppercase looks like all the uppercase letters. Vowels, that looks like vowels in the lowercase. Vowels upper looks like the uppercase vowels. Consonants lower looks like all the lowercase consonants. And the upper, you guessed it, kids, all the uppercase consonants. Down here, we have our function getLetters, and this is what we have to debug. What's getting passed here is the letter type and the upper. That means we're getting either it's all the letters, the consonants, or the vowels. And we have our function getLetters. It's getting past the letter type. And as long as it's equal to all, and if it's upper, we're going to return all upper, else all lower. Else if the letter type equal consonants, we're going to return upper, and we're going to return consonants lower. Else, we're going to return consonants upper. That doesn't look right, kids. If it's upper is true, we should return consonants as upper. If not, we should return consonants as lower. If the letter type is vowels, well, if it's upper is true, returning vowels is lower. Again, kids, I think that's a little weird. And then we're just putting what looks like a function, vowels is upper. That's not even written right, kids. Looking by this, it looks like the consonants are going to be flipped around. My vowels will be flipped around, and I bet my vowels upper won't even print. We have some console.log statements here. Get letters all. We're going to do true and false. So we're printing all lowercase up and lower. Consonants is being passed, both true and false. And the vowels are being passed true and false. And again, vowels uppercase, true, vowels lowercase, false. That means all's getting passed here. If all equals all, well, we're in here. And if upper is true, then we're returning all uppercase. Otherwise, we're printing lowercase. So this one should print all the uppercase letters, all the lowercase, consonants upper, consonants lower, and again, vowels upper, vowels lower. But again, kids, I think because it's mixed up there, these are going to be reversed. And again, vowels is upper isn't even in the right form. We shouldn't get anything, probably an undefined there. And then these will probably be uppercase. Well, let's see if I'm right, kids. All uppercase, all lowercase, consonants, uppercase. Again, that's lowercase, consonants, lowercase, that's uppercase. And then we have our vowels, A, E, I, O, U. Again, that's not uppercase, and our vowels lowercase is undefined. Well, how can we fix that, kids? Let's do this one of two ways. For this one, all I can do is flip this up here. So if upper is true, we're going to return upper, if not lower. But kids, you're thinking, Mr. Rhodes, is there a lazier way to do it? And kids, there is. Do you remember your friend, the not operator? Well, we can simply use the not operator, and that is the exclamation point. You'll see that also here under your math functions. And that just means the opposite. Not upper will return vowels as lower. So that'll actually fix that. We still have this problem right here, though, kids. This should be a return. And the easy way to fix this one, kids, let's just go over to text mode. Let's just type the word return in and go back to blocks. Now we're just doing the opposite, right? If it is a not upper, we're going to return lower. And if it is upper, then we should return the else statement. Well, let's see if I'm right, kids. I'll reset run. Uppercase is right. Lowercase is right. Consonants. Uppercase is right. Consonants. Lowercase is right. And my vowels are right, kids. So that's two different ways you can debug your program. I think that's all code.org wanted. Let's move on to our final lesson. This program is designed as a simple list library. Write some tests to make sure the first function works. Then write the second two functions so that they pass the test written. We have a function here, and it is called fill. It has length and value. We're creating a new variable return list. Looks like this list is empty. We have a little loop here, and we're adding things through the return list at the value. And as we go through whatever I add into that list, we are going to append them in. We're going to go through our loop and add items. We're adding items to the return list here with whatever value is given. And value is something we're going to pass off. And that means when we call this function fill, we're going to give it a length, which is the length or how many whatever we want to do should be done, and then the value or what we want displayed. We have to test that somehow. Let's look at our other two before we start. We have a function multiply by, has two parameters, list and number. And all we're doing right now is creating a new variable return list, which is creating an empty array. And it looks like what I am passing into there is a function. And it looks like I am passing the numbers I want inside the array and then what I want multiplied by. So it looks like multiply by 2, multiply by 5, multiply by 3. This one looks like it's supposed to return a copy of the list in a reverse order. Ooh, that means we got to do a for loop in reverse, kids. My favorite. And the test here looks like we have reverse 1, 2, 3. So we're passing numbers and we're passing a string. Again, same thing. We're creating a new variable return list, and it is an empty list right now. That doesn't sound too bad, kids. Let's go ahead and start up here. I think the first thing I need to do is to test this is add some console.log statements, just like here. And let's add 3. And what I'm going to do to this, kids, is I want to put a function in there. I want to call to this fill function. And fill has 2 parameters, right? The length. So how many of whatever characters do we want to print off? Let's do 4, and let's do the letter R. Let's do an uppercase R, though. That's the value we're being passed. Let's also try one for an empty one. Let's do a size of 0, and we'll just do a special character in here, kids. Now that I think of it, this R probably has to be in quotes too, because we're adding it literal. And the last one here, let's do something fun. We're going to the fill function. Let's put 10 and let's put the number 1, a different data type. No quotes there. Well, that should test that. Let's go ahead and run and see. What I should get is 4 R's, nothing, and then 10 ones. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 R's, nothing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 ones. Looks like my first one works there. Next, we're going to have to do our multiply by a list here, kids. And this might seem really tough, right? But if we look up here, well, we pretty much have the template for what we need. We need a for loop that's going to add something to the length of the array. And then we actually have to append something into that. And really what we're going to do is something pretty similar to this. We are going to append to our list. This time we are just going to do a number. What's that going to look like? Well, I'm going to drag in my for loop here, right? Creating my variable I. And my variable, we don't want it to go to 4 because I don't know what the size of my list is, right, kids? And again, the parameter we're getting passed here is list. So I just want to do the list.length. And that'll go through how many ever items that I put in there. As long as we're less than that length of the list, we're just going to keep going through the loop. And what do we want to do in the loop, kids? Well, we're appending items, right? So we're dragging this in here. What list do we want to append to? Well, that return list that was already created for us. And what do we want to return in there? Well, what I want to get is whatever's here. So I want to get my list at whatever index it is. And I need to get the number it's multiplied by. Those are my 2 parameters. How are we going to do that? That seems really complicated. Well, isn't, kids? We're just multiplying times that number, right? So let's just drag in our multiply thing. And again, what are we doing? Whatever list we're at whatever index it is, so we're just going to use I, the same variable here. And then this number is just our number. So we're just going to use the variable number. That means we should get 1, 2, 3 populated into our list. But before it does, it's going to be multiplied by whatever number is being passed. That means I should get 1, 4, 6, and then the multiple of 5, and then 3 kids. Let's reset run. Let's see if I'm right. 1, 2, 3. That is 2, 4, 6. Multiply by 5. 50, 100, 150. And same by 3. We had all negative numbers. Well, we get all negative numbers back. One more, kids. The reverse list. We're not going to be doing anything different. We just need to add to our empty list here. We're still going to use our loop. This loop, though, kids, this is going up. As long as we're less than this, we keep going up. And that's not what I want. I want to reverse this. And whenever I use a reverse, I'm going to do it a little different way. What I'm going to say here is my variable I is going to equal the length of my list. So I'm going to go list.length. Now, I'm going all the way down to 0. And remember, kids, when we go down to the 0, we have to do a -1 because computers index at 0, we count at 1. And again, we're going through an index. We're adding stuff at 0, so we have to be able to access that 0. On the flip side of that, we're starting at 0, and we just want to go the length of the list. So on this one, we need our -1. Now, we're going to keep going as long as we don't want it to go greater than, kids. Let's drag that out there. We want I to be greater than 0. So we want the greater than, the opposite. And that's just going to say I is greater than 0. And we don't want to go up, kids. What we want to do is go down. So I'm just going to go to text mode here because it's a little easier. And I'm going to get rid of those 2 pluses. And I'm going to put 2 minuses because that means subtract. So this one, I is going to start off at whatever the length of the list is. And as long as we are not less than 0, because again, kids, we're going to start putting stuff in at 0 and working up. We're going to keep going down the list. This is just a reverse order of what we were doing up there. And kids, I guarantee you're going to see a question on each of those on the AP exam. We're still going to do the same thing. We're going to append an item here. And what are we getting? Well, this time we are just getting our list. What list do we want to put into though first? The return list. What numbers do we want to get? Well, we want to get these numbers down here or whatever list index we're at 0. Not 0, kids, at I. We want to be at whatever index we're at. So this one, 1, 2, 3 should be put in there. And then we're going to go in reverse and print it off a 3, 2, 1. And the neat part, since it's not really comparing anything, kids, it's just putting it in order and then taking it in reverse. We are going to do, this one should say maybe, no, yes. Well, let's see if I'm right, kids. 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, and reverse. Yes, no, maybe is a maybe, no, yes. Looks like our code is working pretty good, kids. Well, I think that's all code.org wants, and I think that's all for our practice exercises in this lesson. Hopefully this video is helpful to you, kids. As always, if you have any questions, come see me. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next video, kids. See you later. Bye, bye, bye.